everybody, it's me, Ylva. So you only have half of Girl Squad today. Today I thought that I would do a little tutorial on how to make really basic fighting pants. So a bit of a disclaimer, I am very new to sewing, so this tutorial is not going to be from an expert's point of view. It's going to be from somebody who just learned to sew not that long ago. So this video was requested mostly by our friends at Goon Squad who want to know how to make fighting pants. So fighting pants are really easy because there's lots of fabric, and when you make a mistake it's pretty forgiving. Like, it's hard to see the mistake in all the fabric. So normally I wouldn't do this, but we're going to start with actually like how to get your sewing machine going right from the start, just so my friends Goon Squad are not left guessing. So the first thing we're going to do is just thread the machine and thread a bobbin, and then yeah, just get going from there. So this is what the pants look like in the end. You can see that they're very baggy, and I can move around a lot. High kicks, hiya! So this is what they look like close up, and I have some leg wraps on, but I'm not going to show you guys how to make those today. Let's go! Alright, so first things first, we are going to learn how to actually thread your machine. All machines are different, and this is just how mine works. So if we zoom in here on where we're actually sewing, you can see that there is a place for the bobbin, and then there's a place for the top thread. So the bobbin, we need to actually put some thread on a new bobbin, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So threading the bobbin is pretty easy. What we need to do is take some of our thread, put it on the top of the machine, and then we just need to follow the instructions on the machine. So you're going to go through where it says number 1 at the top, and then around that round metal piece. So from there through number 1, and then around these metal pieces. The other numbers are for the top thread, and then we want to go to the bobbin. And here you go, easy as pie. So the next thing you need to do is pull the bobbin over to the side, and then just step on the pedal and it'll just thread itself. So we're doing lots of sewing for these pants, so I would recommend putting lots of thread onto your bobbin so that you don't run out. Alright, so now what we're going to do is put the bobbin into the machine where it's supposed to go. So there's the bobbin that I threaded. The plexiglass on top of the bobbin shows how to put it in. It's quite simple. You just put it in, around, and back, and then just pull it towards the back of the machine. And then I just put the plexiglass back on, kind of difficult one-handed, and voila! Alright, so once the bottom thread is done, we need to do the top thread. So you just put your thread back where it was when you were threading the bobbin, and now you just follow the numbers. So you start at number 1 there, which is where we started before. Number 2 goes around the metal piece, and then you pull it down. Number 3, down. 4, you come back up. 5, it just goes into the metal piece, so it'll sit in that hook. If the metal piece isn't sticking up, you just need to turn the wheel on the side of the machine, and it will put the needle in sort of the top position. And then what you need to do is thread the thread through the actual needle. So in order to actually thread the needle, you pull down this arm, put the thread around the first hook, and then it will go through another hook, and the arm will sort of pull the needle thread through the actual needle. I'm sure you can look this up to get a better explanation than I can give. Guys, I think we need an animal break. Here's Maggie. She's just sleeping because she's a lazy cat. Little ear flick. Here's Letta. She's sleeping on the amp, probably because it's warm. And there's Louie, sleeping on a Tupperware near the sun. Such a bad cat. And Gemma, the beast hound. There she is, wanting my Chinese food. Alright guys, so here's some stuff that you are going to need in order to complete this project. So you're definitely going to need some measuring tapes. I like to use a big ruler as well. You should use some scissors that are really sharp, like ones that you only use for cutting fabric. You'll need some pins. I've bought an elastic, although you can just use a drawstring if you want. And then I also have some chalk, as well as an actual fabric pen. So you can use either, it's totally fine. So in addition to all that, you will also need a lot of fabric. So the first time I made fighting pants, I made them out of cotton with a little bit of spandex, like a little bit of stretch to them. This time I'm making them out of linen. Because now I feel like I have a good understanding of how to make them. So you will need a lot of fabric. I'm only using black. There is some red in there as well. I did wash it first because somebody told me I should probably do that. So it's been washed and there is a ton of fabric. So let's get to some measurements and you'll see how much fabric we actually need. Alright, so essentially fighting pants are made out of two really, really big rectangles and two smaller rectangles. The big rectangle is going to be 40 or 50 inches wide, and then it's going to be the length of your waist to your mid-calf, and then I would add probably at least 2 inches to that as well. So the 40 or 50 inches just depends on your waist and how much material you want. This time I used 50 inches just because I wanted to have a lot of extra material because I don't have any stretch in this kind of fabric. These smaller ones are just going to be the length of your calf and then the circumference of your calf as well. So essentially we're making two really, really big rectangles and then two smaller rectangles. Alright, so after doing my measurements, the really, really big rectangle is going to be 50 inches and then 28 inches long. So after completing this video, I realized I probably should have added a few extra inches to the length from the waist to the mid-calf because they're a little shorter than I wanted them to be. But c'est la vie, that's just how it goes. The smaller rectangle for me is 12 inches by 16 inches. This one I actually did add a little bit of extra material and it worked out to be pretty good for that one. Alright, so here is my really, really big rectangle. It's essentially a piece of fabric that is folded in half. It is 28 inches and then the waist is 50 inches. So the first time I made fighting pants, I did not iron anything. And as well as washing your fabric, a couple of people told me that I should probably be ironing the fabric as well. So I'm just ironing the big and small rectangles. And they were a lot easier to work with after I ironed them out. Alright, so now what you're going to do is you're going to take the really, really big ass rectangle and put it on top of the smaller one. And then all I'm doing is bunching the fabric, like basically making pleats, and then putting in some pins. So the way that I've ironed the fabric, I ironed it in half, basically so that I know where the center line is. And I just keep gathering it, until they're about the same width. So I'm just basically making a bunch of pleats in the fabric. All right, so after I sew on the pleated part, this is what the pant looks like. So you can see I just sewed right where the pins were. I took them out as I was sewing, and when I folded it in half, you can kind of see the beginnings of a fighting pant. So with everything that I use for fighting, I try to do a double stitch. So here's the thing, it doesn't look good, but it doesn't matter because there's so much fabric that um, if your seams aren't good, trust me, don't worry about it. All that fabric is gonna cover up any mistakes that you make. Oh my gosh, Letta has such a mad face. Look at that mad face. Letta, chill out, man. All right, so now for the tricky part. It's called a gusset. So basically what it does is it's a little bit of extra fabric that will give you a little bit more room sort of in the crotch area. So I did not measure this at all. I took a piece of fabric and folded it in half to make a diamond shape. Then I just placed that diamond shape, I cut it out and just placed it where I thought that it should go and had a look to see if it kind of made sense where it was. So you can see I just put it in the middle. Again, it's just a diamond. It's just a triangle folded in half. And then I'm going to sew that into the pants first to connect them. So when I'm sewing in the gusset, I just kind of go one length at a time, like just think of each side of the diamond and go through it that way. Remember that when you're sewing, it's best to sew things sort of inside out, if that makes sense. So I just do one side at a time, and I just slowly make my way through and kind of figure out what the best way and the easiest way to sew and pin the fabric together is. So I just kind of take my time and make sure that I really understand. Last time I sewed one of my seams inside out. Like I said before, it doesn't make a big difference because you have so much fabric that it's hard to notice anyway. But yeah, just take your time and go slow and figure out the best way to pin everything together and sew it together. Awesome, so this is what it looks like once you have the gusset in. As you can see, that part is sewn in. The bottom part of the legs is currently not sewn, and that's going to be the next step. Alright, so the last step here is probably maybe the most challenging, is actually doing the waistband. So I'm using an elastic here. I'm showing how much elastic I actually use. I make it so it fits around my waist but isn't too tight. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew one end of the elastic where the waistband is, and then I'm going to bring the other end around and sew it as well, and then bring the fabric over and sew it together. I'm also going to put the drawstring in as well at the same time. So I sew the elastic and the drawstring into the waistband as I go. Yeah, so like I said, this part can be a bit challenging. You kind of have to sew. You also want to make sure that you're not sewing the elastic right into the waistband. You want your black fabric to be sewn together. And then I keep having to just pull the elastic because there is so much material. I need to pull the elastic and the rope and then sew some more. It's a bit of a process, but once you kind of get into the groove of it, it's not too bad at all. Straight line sewing is the easiest. And there you have it, some fighting pants. I'm going to link a few tutorials that I use to figure out how to do it the first time. Like I said, I am not the expert, but this should give you a quick, really easy how-to on how to do some fighting pants for medieval fighting. Thanks guys, and I hope you guys have a great day.